Thanks for tuning in to episode 2 of the Worship Guitar tutorial. I'm so glad you're joining me on what is one of my favorite topics, as well as many other guitarists. We'll be talking about pedals and everything that is guitar gear. One huge misconception with pedals is that they're going to make you sound better. That is just not true. Pedals can actually make you sound worse. When I first bought my pedals, I was super disappointed that when I plugged it in, it didn't sound as good as I wanted it to. And the truth is, there's a lot of pedals out there, and some work well with your rig and some don't. And it just takes a long time to figure out what works and what doesn't. And things are gonna work differently for each person. Some people love the Tim and the Timmy drive, and I'm just not a fan. It's never worked well with my rig. And then when I had single coil Strat, some guitar pedals worked better, and then when I moved to humbuckers, the pedals just didn't work as well. So this is just going to be an overview of what I use, how I use it, and why it's in that place in the pedal chain. Because you could put an overdrive pedal at the front of your chain, it's going to sound completely different than if you put it at the back of the chain, and vice versa. So let's dive in. So first up, I do the tuner pedal. I do the tuner first because it needs the cleanest and most accurate guitar sound that you can have. Some guitar pedals, like the Ernie Ball volume pedal, have a tuner out. The tuner out is a good option. However, if your volume pedal isn't powered, then it's actually going to be splitting your chain to provide that tuner the necessary input it needs. So because of that, I like to go tuner first, not using any tuner out unless the volume pedal is buffered. But in this case, it just makes sense for me to put it first. Next up is the compressor pedal that I use, the Wampler Ego compressor. It's a really great compressor because it blends in the clean tone with the compressed tone. There's a couple compressors out there that do this, but I think this one does it the best. Compressor really takes the high highs and the low lows out and brings them into the middle to create a nice clean sound that's not very harsh or brittle. I would highly suggest it as maybe a 5th or 6th pedal to buy. Definitely not right away, but it's something that can add a lot to your playing and really take a lot of your nuances and put them in the mix. It's a really great option, and I put it early in the chain because it does need a clean signal. If you put it after the overdrives, it doesn't usually sound as good. Now, some people do this. They'll put a compressor at the beginning and a compressor at the end, and it makes the overdrive sound a little bit less harsh. Some people do compressors at the end. I like mine right at the beginning. This brings us to my third pedal in the chain, the Durham Electronics Sex Drive. Now, this is a pedal that is what we would call a stage 1 overdrive. It really doesn't add a lot of gain or a lot of dirt. What it does really is just puts your amps right near the edge of breakup, but not quite there yet. So I keep it on all the time. It gives my cleans a little bit of edge, and it also adds a little bit of high end back into my chain. That's about it for this pedal, really. It's kind of a niche pedal. I wouldn't really suggest it for early pedal buyers. It's something that you could add on later on, but it's not something that a lot of people are going to notice and say, wow, this sounds really amazing. It just adds a little bit of nuance, a little bit of clarity, and a tiny bit of dirt to your signal. This brings us to my next pedal in the chain, the volume pedal. Now, this can be put several places in your chain, typically before the overdrives or after the overdrives. I put mine before the overdrives, and it essentially acts a lot like the volume knob on your guitar. The higher it is, the more gain there is available. If you put it after your overdrive pedals, no matter where your volume pedal is at, if it's at medium or full volume, you're going to have the same amount of overdrive. I like when I'm swelling in to add the gain and add the complexity the more that the volume pedal is on. The specific volume pedal I use is the Tapestry Audio Bloomery. It's a really great pedal. It's built really well and it's powered, so I'm not losing any signal. All in all, I've really enjoyed this pedal over the past 3 years of having it. Also, as you notice, the size is a lot smaller than most volume pedals, but still large enough to where you feel like there's something underneath your feet. It's a really good balance. Next up is the True Bypass Looper. Now this is a pedal that isn't absolutely necessary, but can be a lifesaver at times. They come in a lot of different shapes and sizes, but essentially what it does is it goes out to a pedal and then back in from that pedal. So you don't have to click the pedal, you just have to click the True Bypass Looper. Now what this does is when the pedal is clicked off, even though the pedal is still on, it's not in your chain, it bypasses that. So you bypass the cabling, any internals inside of the pedal, and it really creates a lot cleaner sound. And it also saves you, if a cable goes bad, you can just click it off and not use that pedal instead of having to try and rewire your board mid-set. Now there are a lot of great true bypass pedal makers out there. I know Analog Endeavors is a really great company that I'd like to support. This isn't their product, but I do have a couple other of their products and I really like it. There are other ones out there that have MIDI capabilities and can get really fancy and expensive. I like to try and keep it pretty simple and just do the on and off, but there are a lot of options out there. Disaster Area is another one that makes some really high quality bypass loopers. The first pedal in my True Bypass Looper is the Mooer Tender Octaver. This is a really, really great pedal. It's an octave pedal, very similar to the EHX POG. Actually, this is the version 1 that EHX actually sued Mooer, and so Mooer had to change their electronics for the version 2 and etc. So I was really lucky to grab this version 1. But essentially, what this does, it has your sub octave, your dry guitar signal, and then an octave on top of that. This is a pedal I would highly suggest putting before your overdrives and distortions because it really does need a clean, dry guitar signal to be able to split it well. And if you put it after the overdrives, it's not going to be as clean sounding and crispy. It's going to be very muddy. So this is one that I put before the overdrives. The next two pedals in my True Bypass Looper are both overdrives. The first one is the Tapestry Audio Fab Zeus. I don't know too much about this pedal, to be honest. I got it in a deal that they were having on Black Friday, and I haven't really explored its options enough yet to give a good assessment on it. The next one to its left, though, is the JHS Morning Glory. This is a pedal I've had for a long time, and it seems to work well with a lot of people's rigs. Single coils, humbuckers, it really does it all. It's based off of a Marshall Bluesbreaker circuit, and I really can't say enough about it. It's probably one of my favorite, if not my favorite pedal on my board. The cool thing with overdrive pedals is signal chain matters a lot in the sound, and you can really play with each one and see how they each sound. So I like the way that it sounds after the Tapestry Audio pedal, and typically the overdrive pedal that's after or the last one in the chain affects the sound the most. So I like the way the JHS sounds, so I put it after the Fab Zeus. But there really are so many options, and it just comes down to personal preference. The last channel in my True Bypass Looper is used for the Cusack Music More Louder. This is a very simple boost, but it does it really well. There are a lot of great boost options out there that I would highly recommend. The great thing about a boost pedal is you can put it multiple spots in your chain for maximum effect. Some people put it at the very end of their chain as a solo boost. I do that as well. I just put it right after the overdrives, add a little bit more. In case there's a solo, I can stand out just a little bit over the mix. If you put the boost pedal before the overdrives, it acts almost as a second overdrive. What it does is it pushes your overdrive pedals harder, causing them to break up earlier and give you more distortion in overdrive. That's just something that I didn't really want. I would rather have a clean boost. So if you want something that adds a little bit of dirt, you could put it before the drives. If you want it to be clean, then you put it after the overdrives. Out of the True Bypass Looper, I go to a delay pedal. This specific one is the Boss DD20. Boss makes some really, really great delay pedals. If you're looking for a delay pedal on a budget, I would highly suggest the DD5 or the DD7. They're really great bang for your buck. Even the DD20 is relatively low priced compared to a lot of other delay pedals out there. And for the functionality it has, it does a lot of things really well. Putting your delay pedal after overdrives really makes the delays stand out You can put it before your overdrive pedals, but when you're overdriving the delayed signal, it tends to be a lot muddier and not as clean and crisp sounding. So that's why a lot of people put their delays after the overdrives. This little pedal on the bottom is a tap tempo for the DD20. What it does is the DD20 has a tap tempo option, or you can go through each individual preset. But if you put the external tap tempo in, then you can go through the preset and tap tempo using the external pedal. This specific one is built by a company called Analog Endeavors. I would highly recommend that you go check them out. They make a lot of great pedals. Next up is the Strymon Deco. This is a really cool pedal that does a lot of great things. I've put it before the delay and after the delay. Right now, I kind of like the sound it gives me after the delay, but you could go back and forth on it. Essentially, the right side is a stereo widener. It does phaser, chorus, in phase, out of phase, delays, slapback delays, and a lot of cool features. I run this stereo, so my left side is dry and my right side is wet, and it has a really cool sound. The left side of the pedal is tape saturation, or like a really warm overdrive. And what I do is I stack that with the JHS Morning Glory for a little bit heavier overdrive sound that still stays warm. So this pedal does a lot of cool things. Unfortunately, because the overdrive is built in, I can't put the overdrive before the delay or really adjust it in my chain. It's kind of stuck there. Kind of a bummer about having a pedal with multiple pedals built into it. After the Strymon Deco, I have the Strymon Flint. This is a reverb and tremolo combo. And typically reverbs go at your end of the chain and tremolos usually go before the delay. But once again, this is two pedals built into one, so I kind of had to pick and choose where I wanted it. And I chose the reverb because I usually have that always on. So I put it near the end of the chain where reverbs go. And reverbs typically go last because they add overall reverb to the entire mix and brings it all together. It has a really good feel. And that's what most people do, is put the reverb at the end. The tremolo on this is amazing. I don't use it enough. But when I do use it, I use the tap tempo at the bottom to match the song that I'm playing. This tap tempo ensures that I'm getting a really accurate tremolo sound that's going in and out with the rhythm and with the beat. And so it's not out of sync. Next up is probably one of my favorite reverb pedals of all time, the Strymon Big Sky. Now this can do so many things, probably more than I could ever use from it. But what it does with amazing quality and clarity. There's so many great settings that you can dive into, a lot of presets, a lot of options, really good ambient sounds, which is what a lot of worship players go for. And it's just got a very professional sound to it. And I would highly recommend it to anyone that has the budget for it. It is a bit pricey, but in my opinion, it is absolutely worth it. The last pedal in my chain is one of my newest and one of my favorites. It's the Strymon Iridium. So this pedal acts as an amp and cab simulator with multiple options built in and 2 1/4-inch outputs, so you can go straight to the house using a DI. It's got amazing clarity and sound quality, but the biggest thing that sold me on it was the way that it reacted to my playing. Every nuance of my playing was captured, and it sounded exactly like an amp in my in-ears and to sound engineers. So for that reason, I use it quite often, but I can still bypass it and run to amps if I want to. But for now, it's saved me a lot of hassle of taking amps back and forth, wondering what amps are going to be in the back line and if they're going to be usable. So this option just really covers my base as well. Thanks so much for tuning in. And once again, this is just the way that I do things and the routes I took to get there and why I do the things the way I do them. It doesn't mean it's the best way or the right way. There are so many options out there as far as pedals and pedal chains. And I think the most important part is just to discover your own sound, seeing what other people do, adding to that, but not necessarily replicating that. I think the most important part in music is to create a new sound and create your own sound. So thanks for tuning in.